If you're an independent insurance agency owner and you're feeling trapped by your business, like you're constantly having to put out fires and like you don't have time to continue growing the business, this video is for you. My name's Tyler. I'm an agency owner as well. I have grown my own agency, and at this point I have helped hundreds of other agency owners to scale their agencies, to delegate tasks, to hire team members, and use fully trained virtual assistants to get their time back so that they can take their agencies to the next level. I understand what you're going through inside of your agency. It adds up fast. Quoting new business, all your referrals from lenders coming in, and then shopping renewals. You've got your book of business that each month you've got to go through and service. And then you've got clients calling in to add a vehicle, making mortgagee changes, potentially commercial clients needing certificates of insurance. It's a never-ending cycle, but the bright side is 70 to 80% of those tasks can be done by a non-licensed person, and my team trains individuals to handle all of these tasks. So all you need to do is plug someone in and they are ready to go. Now, in this video series, we're going to teach you how to do the exact same thing. In this series, we're going to teach you how to find talent, how to recruit them, hire them, how to keep your data secure, how to train them, and delegate tasks to them, every piece of the process so that you can get your time back and start growing your business again. Are you ready to get your time back? Are you ready to stop feeling overwhelmed? If so, click the subscribe button and follow along to this series where we help you take your business to the next level and buy back your time. Hey there, my name's Tyler, and in this video, we are going to talk about virtual assistants and what they can do for your agency. As you can see, my company is called Agency Aid. Now, I'm also an insurance agency owner myself, started and grew an agency, and basically was able to scale it much faster and much more efficiently using virtual assistants. So now I help other agency owners to do the same thing. So we'll get right into it. So basically, what are virtual assistants and what roles can they fill? Essentially, you need to think of this person, your virtual assistant, as a virtual employee. They are an employee of your company. This is a real person. They're just based somewhere not in your office. So we're going to get into a few things. So like I said, it's a virtual employee. Think of this as a CSR, a sales assistant. They can do bookkeeping. They can do any task that you need for your agency. They're just remote. So generally, our team is hiring people from overseas. A lot of times this is the Philippines or Latin America. Philippines is who we like to hire just because they are extremely educated. The education system is strong in the Philippines. In Latin America, a lot of times we're hiring here if we need somebody that has minimal to no accent so they can get on the phone with clients, or so that they can be bilingual or Spanish speaking. So some of these people are trained and specialize in various fields. Think about quoting, focusing on customer service tasks, shopping renewals, reconciling commissions, various tasks that you probably don't enjoy inside of your agency. You can find somebody that is specialized in these tasks, not in your office. So here's some of the benefits of hiring a virtual assistant. You're going to keep your costs lower. So obviously the cost of hiring a virtual employee is going to be less than hiring somebody that has to come into your office. There's also some economies of scale. The dollar goes further in other countries. So by hiring outside of the US, you can get a much better employee for maybe $10 or $11 an hour. You can offer around-the-clock service this way. So one of the things we see a lot of agencies do is having their VAs working in off hours. So for example, your team works from 8 to 5 or 9 to 5. You could potentially have somebody working from 5 until 12. So you can cover all the additional hours that your team's not working to make sure that all the renewals are shopped, make sure all the quotes are finished so that when your producers come back in the morning, they can hit the ground running and check in with all of your clients immediately. Another benefit is boosting efficiency and improving productivity. So essentially think of it this way. Let's say you've got producers that are dialing out on leads, gathering information, working to get quotes. You can potentially have them gather the information, have a virtual assistant finish the quote, and then deliver the final quotes back to your producer. So all they are doing is spending time on the phone with your clients. Your CSRs, for example, you can have your virtual assistant finalizing renewals so that all the CSR is doing is building relationships with clients to make sure that relationship piece, which is the piece that we only have control over, is taken care of. You can scale your business faster. Everybody talks about the pains with hiring right now. It's difficult to find good talent. If you go through a firm like mine with Agency Aid, we can have you people placed within 48 hours because that's what we do. We can give you more time to strategize. So by hiring people to handle the different pieces of your agency, like hiring CSRs, hiring renewal specialists, whatever it may be, hiring a bookkeeper, you're able to free your time up so that you can think about the agency. You can work on the agency rather than in it, and you can develop strategies on how to grow faster, and then you can work with greater flexibility. So by hiring people that specialize in different pieces, you're going to lower your cost, you're going to improve productivity because they're really good at that one thing they focus on, and you're going to be flexible to do more things, as are your team members. So again, some of the benefits: cost effectiveness. So you are going to save money on the individual employee, probably about 50% less than what the cost is for somebody stateside. But also, if you're freeing up your team's time, like let's say you've got a producer that spends 20 hours a week running quotes, if you free up that 20 hours, they can go spend 20 hours on revenue driving activity, which just amplifies how much money you're saving and how much money you're creating. Flexibility for your business cycle. So obviously we all have to do similar things. If you're shopping renewals, you know that those renewals are going to come up. And so inside of this cycle, you can have people that just focus on shopping these renewals and create a streamlined process. By understanding the business model that you're in, you can make a much more succinct process to handle everything. Access to global and niche talent. So essentially, kind of like I pointed out, we can find people that specialize and have several years of insurance experience and place them inside of your agency for a fraction of the cost of local employees. You're not going to be able to do this locally because it's just going to be so much more expensive and it's cost prohibitive. Time and revenue are sanity for you. So essentially, when you're freeing up your time, you're not working inside the agency running quotes, you're going to create more revenue, but you're also going to get your sanity back because you're not going to spend 80 hours a week in the office running quotes all night. And then finally, the focus factor. So when you're not in 100 different places, 90 miles an hour, trying to do all of the things, you're able to focus on your agency again, and you're going to drive growth faster. And that is incredibly important. So what are some of the tasks that virtual assistants can actually handle? So we're going to cover the most common ones that we see. First of which is repetitive tasks. So think about shopping renewals, running quotes, mortgagee changes, things like that. They're the same process every single time. So we have checklists and game plans and blueprints on how to do these things, and we do it the same way every single time. We have trainings on how to run a homeowner's quote in Travelers, how to run a car insurance quote in Progressive. We cover all of the most of the national carriers, as well as a lot of regional carriers inside the US. But if you can run a homeowner's quote in one site, if you can run a DP3 in another, you can do it in most of the carriers. And we teach about coverage for our virtual assistants before they place them with your agency. So they're going to understand what's dwelling, what's other structures, what's personal injury and bodily injury, and all the different liability limits. They're going to know what these pieces are so that they can run quotes for your agency. We do mortgagee changes, so they're going to know how to make mortgage changes inside of most of the carriers, all the basic customer service tasks, sending COIs, things like that. So the next piece that you need to look at is what are the tasks you hate doing? So probably customer service tasks, calling in and waiting on hold with carriers. So one of the things you can do is if you have a voice over IP, you can have your virtual assistant call the carrier, wait on hold to ask questions, or potentially live transfer it to you whenever they get a person. So this just continues to free up your time and create that freedom in your mind and get back your sanity. Third task you're not good at. So for example, if you're somebody that really loves sales like myself, I don't like doing the monotonous tasks on the back end, like finishing quotes. So I've got a virtual assistant that runs quotes in all of our carriers, finalizes it, pulls the clue reports, etc., pulls the final PDFs, puts them all in Agency Zoom for myself and my producers. And then I just go in and look at the final quotes, pick the best one, and present it to the client. So I'm not having to spend an hour shopping this household. I just get to look at the 5 best options and go present it. So it saves me 45 minutes per household so that I can focus on things that I like and that I'm good at. And then finally, tasks that can lower your operational costs. So kind of like the example I just gave, if you're freeing up your producers to make more calls, you're going to increase how efficient your agency runs and increase the profitability drastically. So what are the common misconceptions about virtual assistants? You may have some in your mind, or you may have been told some already. They're not as invested. So this is just not the case. These people are incredibly invested in your agency. They care about their job. We pay significantly higher than local market rates. And so they don't want to lose this job. They are incredibly invested and want to do the best job possible so that they can keep their work long term. It'll take too long to train. Well, my team handles that. We have a training program. We have literally hundreds of training videos, as well as a 2-week fast track program. So it's between 2 to 4 weeks for somebody to finish training with our team. They have to pass all of our quizzes and certifications. They have to do hands-on training with my team running quotes before they ever start working inside of your agency. I lose control, they lose quality. So basically the idea is that you are the person that has to be working on the things in your agency. It's just not true. Frankly, you can train somebody to run quotes just as good as you or handle the customer service tasks. It allows you to do the things that only you can do. The quality is not going to drop off. And especially we give them the foundation, we teach them how to do the insurance tasks, and then you can give them a little bit of additional training on how you do your process, and there's going to be no drop off. If they can do things 80% as good as you, but you can focus your time on driving more revenue, you're going to see a net gain long term. My data isn't safe. So this is one that we get a lot. Now, my team has quite a bit of safeguards in place. We've got screen tracking softwares on our virtual assistants. We're tracking what they're doing at all times. We're tracking the things that they're saving on their computer. We have contracts in place. We install cybersecurity software. We've got managers around the clock monitoring our team. So we are making sure that everything possible is being done to make sure that your agency's data is taken care of. Finally, simple stuff only. Again, like I said, these people are incredibly well educated. Most of them have college degrees. Most of them have multiple years of experience inside insurance agencies. So they can do a lot more complex tasks than just your run-of-the-mill managing your social media. Now, that doesn't mean you can't have them doing that. If they finish all the quotes, if they finish all the customer service tasks, there's nothing else to do. If you want to train your virtual assistant how to go make posts on Facebook, that's probably a pretty good idea because nobody else is doing it around the clock. So if you're constantly putting out content, you're going to win long term, but they're not somebody that can only do just that task. They can do a lot more complex things. All right, this is the Insurance Agency Owner's Guide to Finding and Hiring the Perfect Virtual Assistant. You have probably heard lots of people talking about they have virtual assistants inside of their insurance agency. How do you find this person? How do you find the right one? And then how do you have success going forward in your agency? All right, so first things first, where do you even go to look for the perfect VA? So the easiest route is you find a specialized virtual assistant staffing company and you reach out to them. My company, Agency Aid, this is what we do. That's a humble pitch, but that's going to be the last one you get. So then you can look at general freelance marketplaces. You can go to places like Fiverr, Upwork, etc. You can type in insurance and then you can look through the freelancers available and you can see if anyone has insurance experience there. Now you can go to insurance-focused LinkedIn groups as well as Facebook groups. So you can go to LinkedIn, you can search groups, you can type in virtual assistant, and you can ask if anybody has experience with a VA, if they're not using their VA, or there may be virtual assistants that are inside those groups trying to network, looking for people to work for. Then industry referral networks. So if you're a member of some of the insurance Facebook groups, or if you're a member of the Big I, you can reach out to some of the directors inside of these groups. It's just networking like you're trying to find an employee. Finally, niche job boards. So if you are on Indeed and things like that, you can post inside these job boards and try to find somebody to recruit. So creating a job description that attracts the right VA. So once you've kind of started the process, you're looking for somebody, now you've got to find a way to entice them to apply with you. So first, you want to be very specific about the tasks that the person is going to be doing and the expected expected outcomes. Now, I'll kind of give you an example. One of the things that you run into a lot with virtual assistants is they're going to ask if it's voice or non-voice. Voice means there's a chance of them getting on the phone. Non-voice means they're only doing back office. So you want to be very specific when you're outlining the tasks, if they're just going to be working on quotes and renewals, or if they're also going to be reaching out to clients to book appointments. Now you want to get into required skills and insurance experience. If you're fine hiring just a general virtual assistant that you're going to train on insurance, make that clear. You're going to be able to pay less for this person. If you want lots of insurance experience, it's probably going to be more money, but they're going to make a more immediate impact and need less training. So it's a catch-22 there. Now, you've got to be able to find ways to see if they're a great cultural fit inside of your agency. And this is just like hiring anybody else. Obviously, you can't discriminate on certain criteria, but you've got to be able to make sure that they mesh with your agency. Then you want to talk about compensation and availability. Let them know what hours they're going to be working. A lot of times, virtual assistants, they're remote. So they're going to be working from different time zones, and you need to tell them what time zone they're going to be working in and what times during that zone they need to be available for your company. And then let them know the compensation. Make sure that they are applying for a position that they're interested in. You can add a little bit of ambiguity if there's some room for negotiation, but give them some kind of general idea. And then this is an optional one. If you want to add in a test task for them to do, potentially a way for you to see their proficiency at something, or if you want to add a keyword somewhere in the description, that way you can see if they're attentive to detail, those are options. All right, so some interview strategies we've got. Scenario-based questions. So, for example, you will be talking them through the process of running a quote, and you're going to ask them, can you outline the general steps that you would go through when you're running a quote? Or, hey, we've got a client that just called in. They asked if so-and-so is covered on their insurance. Can you tell me the process of figuring this out? So ideally, the virtual assistant would say, okay, well, I go into the AMS, I see what carrier that the client's placed with. I go to that carrier, I download the deck pages, and then I send the deck pages to the agent, and they can check and see if that coverage is included. That's the ideal scenario of how that would go. Next, references and success stories. So I generally will ask people in interviews, hey, can you give me an example of a problem you have encountered in your previous workplace and how you overcame it? This is going to give you a chance to tell about how they've used their critical thinking skills, how they've used their customer service skills and capabilities. So success stories, I think, are really great. References are good. You can ask to speak to previous employers. It's just tough sometimes. So I don't lean heavily into references, but I know some people do with great success. Tech setup and security. So you're going to mention, hey, here's the pieces of cybersecurity software that you're going to need to have. Hey, here's the CRM or the AMS that we use. Do you have any experience with it? Just basic things there. Work style and communication. You're going to outline, hey, here's the ways that our agency communicates. Are you available to do this? So for example, my team, we use Slack. So everyone goes into a Slack channel and we communicate there. Hey, are you comfortable with Slack? Or are you comfortable with G Suite? That's what we use inside of our agency, or Outlook, or whatever it is that your company uses. And then work style. Hey, how do you work best? How do I set you up for success? Then growth potential and motivation. So you need to find out, why is this person working? What is their driving factor inside of life that makes them want to do better and be better? And then you want to be able to play to those strengths. And then growth potential, outline, hey, here's the ways that you could potentially advance inside of the company. That way they know if they want to invest long-term to work with you. Clear communications and setting expectations, again, extremely important. So you want to have your onboarding process as simple as possible. So ideally, you would have standard operating procedures for each of the tasks that you're handing to this virtual assistant. These SOPs should be a typed out document, ideally with video as well, that shows step-by-step how you do the task, and then hopefully a video with it showing you doing that task. And you need to have everything packaged as easily as you can. This is going to make your training so much simpler. You need to be able to set up communication channels so that they can chat with you very easily. You need to let them know, here's the best ones to get immediate responses from my team, and set up some type of frequency or cadence for communication. So for example, early on, they're going to need more help. So you're going to have a call once a day. Then it transitions to every other day, then once a week as they get more and more comfortable. You need to have some type of feedback loop. So you need to be letting this person know, hey, you're doing a great job, or hey, here's something you're doing that's not to the standard that I'm hoping for. Can we change that? You need to have key performance indicators. That way they can easily know if they're being successful. And that way you can determine, hey, is this person doing things to the level that I hope? Is this a good fit, or do I need to look at replacing this person? And then confidentiality and non-compete. Just make sure you have all your CYA stuff. Protect your agency, protect your intellectual property. This can't be overstated. You've got to take care of your company above and beyond. And a contract is a very simple way to go ahead and start that process. So in this video, we're going to go through the agency owner's guide to keeping your data secure when hiring a virtual assistant. Obviously, lots of great things happen when you have a VA, but you've got to make sure that you're staying compliant, making sure that you're keeping up with all of your E&O exposures, and keeping your client data as secure as possible. So I'm going to get right into it. So first of all, you need to be using secure platforms. So use accredited CRMs and agency management systems, things like that. Keep your data safe there. Don't just use a spreadsheet. Do everything you can to make sure there's encryption on everything you're doing. All right, so first steps is I recommend using a password manager. If you just Google password manager, you're going to find tons of options. The one that I like is LastPass. There's lots of different ones. So Last, L-A-S-T, PassPass.com. That's one option. Essentially, you will log into your password manager. You will store all of your passwords. You'll have one master password that you use to get in, but anytime somebody needs access to log into a site, you'll type in their email and you'll hit securely share credentials. It will send them a code to use, but they don't actually have the password. So you can remove their access anytime. So that's one level of security. Then I recommend storing your files inside Google Drive or OneDrive. They've got a lot of additional cybersecurity, Microsoft and Google. We'll touch on it in a second, but they've got double authentication you can turn on. I would recommend that. But this allows you to control who has access to what files. So if there's company files that you need to share out, you can very easily go into that file and remove access anytime. It's a lot easier than just sharing a PDF, because as soon as you do, it's gone and out. So a virtual private network is one that's really going to be a requirement. A lot of times if you have a virtual assistant logging in to carrier sites or into your network, they're not going to be able to, because it's going to read that IP address. And if they're not either at your office or in the US, it's going to disallow that person. So virtual private network is pretty inexpensive and is the way that you're going to have to do it. That also adds some additional cybersecurity as well. Encrypted messaging, you could potentially turn on encryptions with your emails. You can send text messages, etc., encrypted. This provides just one additional layer. And then two-factor authentication, like I mentioned a second ago. So anytime somebody logs in, they have a password and they may have a code that they need to enter into their phone in order to log in to whatever software it is. All right, so controlling access is really important. You need to decide who needs access to what things. So your virtual assistant, do they need to get into your agency management system? Maybe, maybe not, depending on what they're doing. Do they need access to your CRM? Probably. But do they need to have admin access, or can they just have a CSR access? I wouldn't give anybody login access to the principal account inside of any carrier. So just consider those things before you start sharing passwords. So the principle of least privilege, determine exactly who needs access to what and only give them as much as they need in order to do their job. Define the client roles, and inside of that document, determine exactly what be in charge of, and that helps you determine what they need access to. There's lots of monitoring tools you can use. So if you work with my company at C4 Solutions/Agency Aid, that's something we do. So we have a screen monitor that is going at all times with any virtual assistant that's working with us. So we can see what they're looking at, what they're clicking on, how long they're on different screens. If their mouse is not moving for an extended period of time, we're monitoring all these things to make sure that everything's secure. Regular access reviews. So consistently use those user role documents and go through an audit. Okay, do they still need access to all of these things? and you can remove those things, change passwords, etc. And then have an offboarding protocol. So whenever you remove somebody from your company, be it a virtual assistant or an employee, have a procedure that you go through to make sure that you are systematically removing access to anything that they had access to, and thus de-risking everything in the future. The last thing you need is a disgruntled employee that really wants to cause issues to your company, and they go in and just jack everything up. And now you've got a massive cyber claim. All right, so confidentiality agreements I think are important. So a non-disclosure agreement, I have all of my employees sign one. Basically, it just says, hey, they're not going to disclose any pertinent customer information. They're not going to disclose any of our proprietary information in the company. It's just one additional legal safeguard that you can add in. You probably have heard that non-competes are no longer allowed. So you can sign one, but it's not enforceable. It doesn't help you any, but an NDA is still important. Like I mentioned, non-competes doesn't help anymore. Data handling policy. So basically, you need to have a contract that determines exactly how data is to be handled inside of your company. And so essentially, if somebody is doing things that are outside of your protocol, it's a fireable offense. They're going to understand it, but just having this protocol in place lets them know that you're serious. And it may also be a requirement for your cybersecurity software or your cyber insurance. And then cyber security policy, like I said, cyber insurance is incredibly important. And it's one of those things that an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure, and every little bit helps because these claims do get really massive. Okay, and then as you can see here, I had removed the non-competes on this slide, but legal counsel input is also important. So consulting with an attorney, seeing, hey, what are my exposures? Where do we have issues? And what can you help us to mitigate? And so kind of like if you're working with a contractor and they've got a hold harmless agreement, or they are transferring risk to someone else, very similar. You need to find ways to remove as much risk from your company as you can. All right, so regular cybersecurity training is important inside of your company. So phishing awareness. So phishing email is essentially somebody sends you an email, may look real. You click a link, they're going to have Trojan horse, some type of malware in there that's going to download a virus on your computer, or they could potentially be posing as one of your customers and could be trying to get banking information, whatever it may be. You just need to do consistent training with your team to make sure they expect this and know what's going on. Password best practices, I would recommend teaching your employees not to use the same password, not to do the same thing over and over again, and to have unique passwords for as many sites as they can. So again, safe software practices, I recommend having a secure connection whenever you're logging into things. Be careful not to use like public networks or public Wi-Fi if you're accessing your AMS, just the same thing you would think about if you were logging into your bank. Incident response plans. In the event that there's some type of data breach, you need to have a plan on how you notify clients, how you get that data back, how you get back up and running as quickly as possible. And then ongoing updates, consistently update passwords, update your cybersecurity, continue improving. It's not just to set it and forget it. It is a long-term plan. So monitor and review what you've got going on. So access logs, see who is using what sites, and this could potentially show you who you can remove access for. Do security audits, so make sure that you've got somebody, a third-party site is ideal, that's going through checking how secure all of your software and system are so that you can find any exposures before a breach happens. Collaboration tools with version history. So this allows you to see anytime changes are made, and you can see who made those changes and potentially who added in a virus. VA training. So you need to train your virtual assistants just like you would any employee on how to securely handle data, as well as you need to train your team members on, here is a virtual assistant. They are remote. Here's what we're going to give them access to, and then ideally work with a company like mine. It doesn't necessarily have to be us, but make sure that you've got training in place for that virtual assistant. And then client communication, identify who communicates with clients, what channels and mediums they use. Is it email? Is it phone call? Etc. Do we have to have a confirmation in writing before we make a change? That's one that I personally have. So before we cancel a policy, we have to get a text or an email. It has to be in writing. And again, this is just an E&O, like CYA type deal, just making sure we don't have issues there. Secure passwords, kind of like I mentioned, don't have the same password for everything, and don't share it just via plain text. If you're going to send somebody a password, encrypt the email before you send it, and then try to regularly update passwords. A lot of sites now make you update it every 6 months, and I would recommend following something like that. And then limit who has access to what passwords. If they do have access to a password, make sure it's not shared on any other software. All right, so you got a virtual assistant, you hired them, you set up your security. Now, how do you start delegating to them? That's what we're going to cover right here. So how do you identify tasks that you can delegate to your virtual assistant? So really what you need to do is, I would recommend taking a sheet of paper, just keep it next to your desk, and you're going to write out step by step everything that you do in a day. So anytime a task comes up, you are going to write down the name of that task, the time you start it, and the time you finish. And then at the end of the day, you'll add up how long each of those tasks take. Now, what you're going to do, you're going to try and group these things as much as you can. Take a couple different colored highlighters and group them together. And you're going to start seeing themes throughout your day. And what you're going to do is, based on these chunks, that's how you're going to start delegating. So there's going to be tasks that don't necessarily have to be done by you. So the first thing to do is look for $10 an hour tasks. If something is extremely repetitive and very easy to train, you need to clump those together first and get rid of that. That's going to increase the value of your time. Now you're working on higher leverage tasks that are going to move the business forward. Then you need to look at ways that you can have a virtual assistant add more money into your pockets. So you're going to remove the low value tasks. That allows your time to be worth more. And now you're going to have a virtual assistant work on the client life cycle. And so basically anywhere in the process that the VA could potentially help you increase sales, this makes them pay for themselves a lot faster. Then after that, you need to think about specialization versus generalization. Do you need an executive assistant that kind of helps with your life, or do you need somebody specialized for one specific task? If you're going by the $10 an hour rule, it could potentially work both ways, but ideally you would clump tasks together in groups so that it's done by somebody skilled at that position. And then this delegation scorecard, essentially what you need to think of is, what are tasks, kind of think of it in a quadrant. What are tasks you like to do, don't like to do, and then what are tasks you're good at and not good at. And so essentially things that you don't like to do, but you're really good at, you need to build a training system there first. Start there and then delegate that out. You're great at doing it, so you can build a really great training system, but you really don't like to do it. So you need that off of your plate. Then what you need to look at is tasks that you're not good at and you hate to do. So you need to find somebody really specialized to do that task. And then anything you don't like, as you continue, don't like and not good at, you need to try and delegate those things. But when you find a task that you're not good at, you really need to find somebody specialized, or you need to pay a coach or a consultant to do the training there, because you need everything done with excellence inside of your business. All right, so techniques for clear and concise communication. You need to make a schedule of how you're going to follow up with your team. And then the first step is you give them a written standard operating procedure. So you need to type out step by step how to do everything that you do inside of your business. And then ideally you would record a video kind of like this, have your screen, you're going through the SOP, and then you are narrating how to do it and showing examples of how to do that task. And then as much as you can, have templates and checklists. Like if you have one task that comes up very often, make a checklist. So as they do it, they check off the items, just to make sure that every point is hit the same way every time. Use a shared project management tool. There's Asana, there's ClickUp, there's various different resources you can use to track all your projects in progress. But this gives you a really great finger on the pulse of your business, so you can track what things are being done. And then, like I said at the start of this slide, regularly check in. So as you start with the virtual assistant, I recommend making sure it's daily. Then you can transition every few days or weekly, but I wouldn't really get outside of that. You need to make sure that you're building rapport, because this is a team member. They're working together with you inside of your business. Again, kind of like I said, you're making a team. You need to be able to trust each other. And that's extremely important. So start small, start with small, very specific projects and expand from there. You're going to find out quickly if this person's a rock star or not. If they are, you can potentially delegate more to them. If they're not, you haven't given them tons to do. You can replace them quickly and easily. Make sure you're keeping your data secure. In our previous video, we spoke about this. I would recommend going back and watching it, but this is very important. Don't hurt yourself long term. Be transparent on your expectations. So have clear key performance indicators that allows them to know if they're doing well, allows you to know if this is the right person, and lets everybody stay on the same page going forward. Celebrate their wins. When they're doing really well, make sure they know it. And so be overly gracious with your praise. This makes people feel like they're doing a great job and gets them more excited about working with you inside of your company. And then keep communication channels open. Make sure that they know they can reach out anytime. I know you're busy, but if they don't know what to do and they feel like they can't ask you, they're just going to sit there on the clock and you're wasting money and wasting their time. All right, so sometimes you're going to need to adjust levels of detail based on the experience. So if you hire somebody specialized, you may not need as much detail. And if it's a task you're not good at, you may not be able to make as great of documentation. So if you have a VA that's very specialized and they're doing a task that you're not good at, I recommend having them make a standard operating procedure. You go through it together after they finish it. You verify if everything's to the standard that you would hope for, and then you have that finished SOP long term in the event that person doesn't work out, or if you need to hire them support in the future. All right, so do assessments with your virtual assistants. If they're doing a task you're not comfortable with, make sure that they're very proficient at it. Then after that, have tiered delegations. So somebody may be really good at entry-level things, not great at upper level, or if they're really great at upper level, you don't want to waste their time on the lower level tasks. So try to think in that mindset, and then have a mentorship mindset. Make sure that you are constantly trying to coach them to be the best version that they can be. So as you continue to grow inside of your company and delegate more and more, the goal is for you to be the CEO and just managing the people that manage systems. Embrace feedback loops. Consistently be asking them, hey, how can I be a better leader for you? How do I make sure that you're more successful? Where do you hope to get, and how do I help get you there? And then make sure adaptability is the key inside of your business. We have a core value that no matter what, we find a way to get things done. And I think that's the way business has to be done. So that's the basics of it. If you have any questions, reach out to my team. We would love the chance to be able to help you. You can go to agencyaid.com with or without the dash. Send us an email, give us a phone call. We are happy to answer any questions and help you take your business to the next level. Thanks again. Thank you so much for being a part of this video series all about starting out with virtual assistants. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to our team. We'd love to be able to help you. Subscribe and follow along for the following videos because we have more series on the way to help you in your virtual assistant journey.